What's up? Make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell up above for future uploads, and check out the links posted in the description down below to support the channel. Thank you. First of all, Glazers out. There is a massive movement building, and it is fantastic to see against the ownership of Manchester United. Already you're hearing as well too, even though they've only wheeled out Casemiro, that they're talking about maybe the budget for next summer is already affected. These people need to go. Because at the start of the summer, Ten Hag gave these people a list. They didn't listen to it. They didn't want to know. And then suddenly they found themselves with 2 games lost and a third in very serious jeopardy. United have 3 points from 9 and they've panic bought now. That's a good thing, I think, because United have gotten some real quality into the club, like Malacia, like Martinez, like Casemiro, and potentially one more. Now I think that they're going to drag out this Anthony transfer for as long as they can, so they can do like close to a deadline day deal and say, okay, that's it now. But there's already talking from the owners about next summer's budget being affected, and I don't think that's good enough, particularly when Ralph Rangnick identified at least 10 people that needed to go out of the club and 10 people that needed to come into the club. So there's a lot of movement that's needed, and these owners need to go, especially when you have Sir Jim Ratcliffe interested in Manchester United, especially with him being a Manchester United fan and him having been involved in the Formula 1 with Mercedes and having done a very good job with those. So that's what I want to say first. Second of all, I think the team that Erik ten Hag picked, obviously, as I'm recording this now after the game, was a fantastic team that he picked. I did have question marks around Elanga and Rashford particularly, and I will say as well, I think a lot of people probably thought the same about McTominay. However, it seemed like McTominay played the game of his life against Liverpool, probably because he's seen Casemiro coming in and knows that his place is under threat and in jeopardy. I thought it was interesting, by the way, talking about Casemiro. I'm a very big fan of his, and it was nice to see him going over and shaking Roy Keane's hand and giving him a big hug. I thought that was quite something because he clearly knows about the culture, the history and tradition of Manchester United to do something like that. I think it's a good thing as well from a Ronaldo aspect that now he has Varane and Casemiro there. I think that's going to bring more stability and more success and more winning mentalities into the club. I personally do not think that Ronaldo should be going anywhere near an exit door. I think he should be at Manchester United for sure, and I think it's something that Erik ten Hag wants, because when you have guys that are in that club that do need winners' mentalities and leaders, it is very important that Ronaldo's kept there. Speaking about him as well too, before the game kicked off, when he approached the commentary team, the punditry team, I thought it was very interesting to see him talking to Gary Neville, ignoring Jamie Carragher, which was awesome, and then asking Roy Keane where has he been. Now I don't think Roy Keane fully understood what he meant, but I think what Ronaldo was saying was, where have you and Gary been when I've been insulted by the likes of this clown here in the middle here with 0 Premier League titles? Where have you been? Why have you not been defending me? I've got an outrageous record for last year and been nominated for a Ballon d'Or, outscoring Harry Kane and Mo Salah, and you are telling people that I'm the problem at the club. Like, you want to get real. So this agenda against Cristiano Ronaldo was very clear, and the agenda against Lisandro Martinez is already there too, by the way. Let's not forget that. Harry Maguire being benched as well was something that the English media are still talking about Lisandro Martinez's height. It's ridiculous stuff. Fabio Cannavaro was one of the smallest centre-backs of all time and one of the greatest. So I don't want to hear any of this nonsense, particularly because Lisandro Martinez was awesome against Liverpool. Now I know it's going to be a different team than playing against a team that's going to hoof a ball and try and header it into the net. I do get that. But that comes down to leadership and people on the pitch picking up the right individuals. That's what it comes down to for me, and especially that's something that a captain should be organising, and indeed that's something that should be tactically been made aware of for the players on the pitch as to who they're marking when a corner or a set piece is taken. So the team selection was good. De Gea had a good game. His distribution is still terrible, and I would love to see Mike Maignan, who is the AC Milan goalkeeper. I would love to see him coming into Manchester United. He is a fantastic goalkeeper, and he is very good with his range of passing, and indeed then as well as a sweeper keeper. There's talk about Kevin Trapp and a couple of other names now at the moment. Dubravka, another one. Again, it's the Manchester United way to be linked to players that you say, absolutely. Like, there's a talk and point in Germany about Kevin Trapp taking the first team place from Manuel Neuer. I mean, to me, that's signalling that that's a good goalkeeper. However, United look to have cooled interest there, and Dubravka is supposedly the name that they're talking about. You need someone in there now to challenge De Gea and eventually take over that first choice place, because his contract is up in 2023. I wouldn't be renewing the contract though if I was Manchester United. I probably would have been trying to get rid of him this summer, or maybe even the last summer. Martinez, fantastic game. Absolutely fantastic. I can't praise this fella enough. And I'll be talking about it now in a few moments about what I thought about the defence. Bruno Fernandes as captain. I thought he wore the armband well. I think he did more of a captain's performance there than Harry Maguire did since he joined Manchester United. But I do think, like, overall the team, they gave a good 30 minutes, and then after that then it was kind of back to the wall defending. And again, I know when people tire out, and Liverpool are a very good side or a slick side, I know it's difficult to keep that up, but I think that they were there for the taking, particularly if you had better forwards. Rashford, okay, scored a goal, done alright. Some big chances missed though, and that's where I look at the selection of Rashford over Ronaldo and I say to myself, okay, right, he's got youth, he's got speed with him, maybe that over Ronaldo, but finishing opportunities, he's absolutely muck. So Ronaldo, I would have preferred to have been in there, because I think if that same performance was given by Liverpool against the Manchester City, I think they would have run a rout against them. I think it probably would have been 4 or 5-0. Probably would have been in and around that range. I could see Mahrez scoring the opportunities that Rashford had. I really could. If Phil Foden even, I'd say. And then, Erling Haaland, if he had those opportunities, I think he would have put them away. And there was a number of them were in the game, and particularly in the first half, where I thought Liverpool could be way out of here. But only having a small margin of goals is something that gives them hope. And I do think, I agree with Klopp in saying that later on through the game when they scored just a bit too late to be able to make a comeback in the game, because at that point I think United were in serious trouble and it was back to the walls, like I said. Malacia, my lord, he was fantastic, and I've been calling for it for a while as well too, and I was happy to see him coming into the club to take the place away from Luke Shaw, and he was phenomenal. When he went home on Monday night, he emptied his car case, his wallet, and Mo Salah from his pocket. He was absolutely wonderful. The aggressiveness that he showed, the ability to go forward, the tackling ability, it was just out of this world. And when I seen some of the high fives between himself and Dalot and Varane and Martinez, I was looking at it like, this is like watching a top tier defensive side like in an Italian Serie A. It was absolutely wonderful, and to see that amongst the defenders was truly something I enjoyed, because it's been a very long time since we've seen something like that in Manchester United, and I think that was really a back four that was very strong. Now, I would have question marks over Dalot. I think defensively, Aaron Wan-Bissaka is a better defender than Diogo Dalot, but going forward, Diogo Dalot is obviously a much better player than Aaron Wan-Bissaka, so that comes down to selection. And indeed, I thought Dalot did very well. You've got Eriksen. Eriksen played well, but I don't think he's a player, I really have to say this, right, and I don't mean this in any bad way or anything like that, but given what's happened to him, I don't think he's a player that can last 90 minutes. And when I say that, like, I think in and around the 50-minute mark, I looked around at the midfield, and the midfield looked bunched. It absolutely looked wrecked. And that's where I think, like, Casemiro's going to come in and give a lot of energy. I think Bruno Fernandes gives you a lot of energy as well also. But I don't think Christian Eriksen is going to be able to push it past, at a top level, past a 60-minute mark. I really don't. He looked very tired by the time he came off. And to me, that's a bit worrying, because if you're playing against a bigger team, I know when they're looking at it this year now, it's the league and the Europa League. They should be spanking teams in the Europa League. Like, I'm fully expecting Manchester United to be winning that Europa League. Fully expecting them to do it. However, if you've got someone that's there that can kind of last 60 minutes, that's given the opportunity of the other team to have a 30-minute run then. And you don't really want that. Raphael Varane, oh my God, this fella was incredible. This was the guy that we bought. That's the fella that I expected to be coming to Manchester United. And there was one position that happened in the game, and I said to myself, that's something that Harry Maguire wouldn't do. Luis Diaz had the ball on the left-hand side, and he got through. And Varane was on Luis Diaz's left shoulder. And what he did was he was behind him, and he switched to goal side of Luis Diaz and blocked off that opportunity. It was a fantastic piece of defending, and something that probably wasn't highlighted enough, I don't think, throughout the game. But that's something that Harry Maguire wouldn't do. Harry Maguire would have gone for Luis Diaz's left shoulder and probably would have stretched his right leg across, possibly given a penalty, or Diaz would just get away from him. That was just clever defending from Varane. And I had to say, between him and Martinez, they'd be my first choice centre-backs they would, and I think Ten Hag should stick to that. I will say that the only thing about Varane is he worries me when it comes to injury problems. Like, if he does 5 consecutive games this season, I'll be surprised. I will be surprised. I hope that I'm wrong, but I would like to see him last in those games. However, I think it's very unlikely. Martinez, though, for me, is a starter every week. He was fantastic. And most Dutch coaches as well, too, if you've noticed by now, they like to have a left-footed centre-back. Louis van Gaal did it as well, too, with Daley Blind, left-footed centre-back. So these are things that they're coached throughout their lives, and I think you're starting to see it now. It was good style, I think, for the first 30 minutes in particular from Man United, and the defence was just wonderful. Dalot, again, wonderful, done a very good job. He was wrestling around, I think, which was nice as well too, with Luis Diaz. Wasn't giving him anything very easily. Another thing as well too, I'd say, Michael Oliver shouldn't be refereeing games between Manchester United and Liverpool. The man has a clear bias against Manchester United, and some of the early decisions, indeed yellow cards, were farcical, considering he was letting Liverpool players away with similar, I would say, tackles. You could even go out, maybe some of the dark arts, and yet Manchester United players were being penalised. The only thing that's a saving grace, I think, for Manchester United, particularly if you have Michael Oliver as a referee, is that you have VAR now. So if he makes a dodgy decision, which he was likely to do in previous years, like giving them a penalty or whatever, can't do it anymore now unless the VAR really helps it along. So that's what I wanted to say about that. Sancho, done well, took his goal well, but after that, again, same problem. He kind of fades out of games, and maybe it's a thing of the other forward players been able to take that on upon themselves. But to me, like I said, he took his goal very well, very smart, cool, collected, done it very nicely. I think Bruno Fernandes pointing at the goal was hilarious as well too, as if to say, like, there's the goal, as if Sancho didn't know. But it faded in the game to me, I thought, and when he was substituted, like, I thought, yeah, alright. Now I do think there was a small drop, particularly on the wing, in quality when he came off, but I think in terms of affecting the game, he doesn't do enough for me. Alanga done well again. I think big props to him as well, particularly for the first goal. And also, what's not been talked about either is Malacia ran forward with that ball. It was passed in, and then it was passed back down towards Martinez, and Martinez slipped that ball into Alanga. That's not been talked about, not nearly enough, I don't think, for that first goal. So Martinez deserves an awful lot of respect, I think, for that first goal. And indeed, Alanga did very well. And I think that's why United have been linked with a left-sided winger, because whilst Alanga did well, another guy as well too that fades in games, and I'm not sure if he's quite prepared to take that jump up to the current standard of what's expected at United. Next up then you had McTominay. McTominay done very well. I thought he done what he was supposed to do, which was a breaker of the ball and just give it to someone else. That's exactly the type of player that I think McTominay is, and it's the type of player that Casemiro is. So if you have two of those players now at this club, and you have Casemiro hopefully teaching McTominay, then hopefully United can get something out of him. And there's a symbiotic relationship there, I suppose, of McTominay learning from Casemiro, and then hopefully in the next couple of years that if Casemiro is starting to fade, then McTominay's brought in and he can do a very similar job. That's what I'm hoping anyway. Good to see Harry Maguire on the bench. Luke Shaw on the bench as well too. I thought it was fantastic. Thought it was a great thing to see. Wan-Bissaka did well when he came on. I thought Martial did well when he came on also, and Ronaldo done well when he came on. But when you're giving someone, I think, between 5 to 10 minutes in a game, and you're looking for them to either, in my opinion, he was probably putting him on there just as a fair element for the likes of Van Dijk, not that to stop him from going forward. I think that was probably the tactics that were behind that. But like I said earlier in the game, if Liverpool had scored, I think United would have been in a bit of trouble, because I think the heads would have went at that stage. Firmino played okay for them. They were talking about losing Darwin Núñez if that was a big loss. Totally disagreed. That fella's a stocking. I think the biggest loss for Liverpool, because that was something that the commentary team talked about throughout the game, was, it's a big loss now that not having Darwin Núñez. Disagree. Your biggest loss was Thiago. Thiago was a huge loss, because particularly in that midfield, that's where the game was won and lost. That midfield, I think if Thiago's in it, like I said, with Eriksen tiring out and stuff like that, I think it's a different story. So I do think that was probably the biggest problem for Liverpool. Again, Fabinho as well was coming back from injury, and he was put on later on, made a difference I think as well too, really started to solidify Liverpool. And I really do think that Manchester United got away with it towards the end. Now I'm happy Manchester United got away with it towards the end, and I think the performances of these three men here, Varane, Martinez and Malacia, were absolutely fantastic. They were wonderful. This fella here, like, to me, was the highlight of the game. I loved seeing it. I loved seeing the aggression that he showed towards Mo Salah. I loved even as well early in the game, Mo Salah was going past Martinez and Martinez fouled him. Again, dark art stuff, don't mind it at all. and then there was a shoulder bump from Martinez to Salah. I was like, I love to see that. That's great. Yeah, now because you're letting him know he's in the game. I will say also that the commentary team, it's something that needs to be highlighted. This was another one as well too. Fantastic, because the ball came from Fernandez off and Martinez was there on the line to block that. He made that positional awareness himself to just come back and stand on the line. It was great stuff. You know, he's a wonderful player. I'm really enjoying him so far. The fact that he's had to take over the number 6 and has put in an absolute beast of a performance really lets you forget about the previous 6, which is nice. The commentary team is something I wanted to talk about as well also. I don't think you can have, and I certainly don't think with games like this, you can have Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher involved in commentary. It's way too biased. Now, I'm a fan, clearly, of one club, and clearly you can hear my bias, and it's something that I didn't enjoy throughout the game. There was moments as well where the co-commentary was totally gone, and that happened in the Brentford game as well too, because clearly Neville is emotional or he's running around the place, and somewhat, from what I understand, there was a gantry cam or something like that showing Neville running around. It's not good enough. It really isn't. And I'm not saying that Gary Neville shouldn't be a commentator. I'm not saying that Jamie Carragher shouldn't be a commentator. But I don't think they should be commentating games that are close to themselves. Like, who I would have liked to see as a commentator on this game would have been Martin Keown. Martin Keown's a fantastic commentator, and he's a very intelligent man. I also think because neither of the clubs are his clubs, he's going to be unbiased with what he's saying and what he's doing, and he's not going to be running around the place screaming or anything like that. He'll obviously say and big it up, I think, somewhat with the commentary when a goal is scored, but he's not going to leave the commentary space for, was it 4 to 5 minutes, I think, and there was obviously stuff going on as well in the background. To me, I think that Sky need to take a very serious look at that, and they need to understand that if they have, for example, a game between Manchester United and Liverpool, have Martin Keown on the co-commentary. Have the lads down as pundits and go to them at half time. That's fine. But don't have somebody in commentary there that's going to totally distract from the game. Like, as I said, I'm a Manchester United fan, and Gary Neville was talking and he was annoying me. So, like, I mean, that says an awful lot. And I mean, look, I'm not someone that listens to commentary, and Kevin Kilbane annoys me something terrible when he commentates against Manchester United, because that's what he's doing. He's commentating against Manchester United. Clearly very bitter about Manchester United for whatever reason. And Jamie Redknapp is an okay commentator. But to me, when you're listening to some of them, it's just very poor and very poor behaviour, I think, during a game like this. And clearly they're wound up, and clearly what's gone on before the game with Ronaldo approaching them and blanking Carragher, I think that was awesome to see. Fair play to Ronaldo. But I think that that's all had an effect on this game, and it's been something I've thought about for a couple of weeks. And indeed the Brentford game was another one too, where Neville just seemed to go silent for a large portion of the game. And I'm not surprised either, because they were very poor. But if you have a Martin Keown in there, he's going to objectively say, well, this isn't good enough, or that's not good, or whatever it might be. So maybe Sky might need to look at that, but I don't think they will. I think that they're going to keep putting people on games that they're involved with. And I don't know whether it's like a professionalism thing or something like that, but to me, when you're listening to a fella that loves the club, like, you know, I would, or Gary Neville does, or Jamie Carragher does, or Martin Keown does, it's very difficult to separate that. And if you're an opposing fan or a neutral, it's going to really peeve you. It's peeved me, and I'm a fan. But I think that needs to be looked at. And I don't want to take away from the performance here or anything like that of the players, but even when you've got Carragher mouthing out of him about Martinez and his height and all like that, and then he puts in an absolute stalwart of a performance like this, it's the shift on to somebody else. You know, let's move on and talk about how good Rashford was this evening. Do you know what I mean? Like, the commentary should have been about how good Varane and Martinez and Malacia were in particular. Those three I'm highlighting. How good the three of those were. But see, the reason why they're highlighting Rashford, and this is another thing I'll also say, particularly with the English commentators, is they're going to highlight Rashford because he's an English player, and they're going to not talk about how poor Harry Maguire is being because he's an English player. And that's a big, big problem. And indeed, within the commentary space, it's a big problem. And I think some of these fellas that are in the commentary space feel like they're picking the team, and they feel like they should be listened to when the team is being picked. And I'm sure that's why, and what happened with Ronaldo, because Ronaldo's had to been listening to this type of junk for the last year, and then he meets the fella that's been talking the junk, who absolutely swallows his words as soon as Ronaldo walks over. Couldn't speak. It's like a toddler looking at him, stuttering away. Like, it was great to see, and I think that is another thing that's coming. I think in the next 6 or 7 months, probably you're going to get more players doing that now, walking over the commentary teams and saying, "Oi, Graham Souness, Liverpool man, are you? You're talking about us over here." Like, this is going to happen, and it's when's it going to happen? to the point of people saying, right, that's enough. I mean, Stormzy coming over to the commentary team was ridiculous. And I think Roy Keane even muttered it, is this a football show or what's the story? He's right. Like, what was he doing on Sky Sports, giving the microphone, talking away? Like, what is that about? Do you know what I mean? It's a football game. And, like, talk about how good this fella was. Talk about how good Raphael Varane was. Talk about how good Malacia was. Malacia was outstanding. He's just at the pocket and Mo Salah. That's something that Real Madrid, when they played against Mo Salah at his peak, because I think he might be a little bit past his peak now, but at his peak, they had to build him off the pitch they did in the Champions League. This fella absolutely stuffed him into his pocket for the game. And look, I know Salah scored, and Salah did very well to score, but that's the type of player that I think Malacia is, kept him very quiet for the large majority of the game. But they won't talk about how good Malacia was because it'll keep Luke Shaw out, and then that's going to cause problems for England later on down the road. Don't be worrying about England though, lads, because Gareth Southgate has his favourites, and it doesn't matter who they're playing for or how badly they're playing. He's still going to pick them, so don't worry about that. Instead, what you need to be doing is you need to be focusing on how good these two fellas were, and that's what I'm saying. Carragher is a fellow with 0 Premier League medals. I would much rather listen to Martin Keown on a commentary space, listening and hearing him talk about how good these two were, because I would value that opinion much more than I would Carragher or Gary Neville. I know he's won things, but the omittance of talking about how good these two fellas were, because that's what needs to be done. It was a fantastic game for Manchester United, and like I said, when I say a game, a 30-minute performance I thought was something that fans expected. I think the atmosphere in the ground was really good. I think the build-up to it was good with the protesting. I think they're going to continue, and it's fantastic to see them continuing on. But I do think what needs to be happening now is consistent and constant picking of the correct team from Ten Hag. I think he's wised up to it now, hopefully. These are two players that everybody wanted to play together, and everybody wants to see Harry Maguire moved on. I've no opposition towards a Harry Maguire playing against a team that if they're going to lump balls in, he's heading them away. That's the type of game I think he's suited for. But a game like this where you're expected to play football, and especially the football that's been played now, I expect these two fellas to be in the team against Man City. I expect Malacia to be in the team against Man City. And this is exactly the type of manoeuvres that need to be made by Manchester United manager. And I think Ten Hag has probably realised that now, that even though he's done some sort of homework before coming into the club, he realised really quickly after the two games, you can't bank on Maguire there, and you can't bank on Shaw in big games because they're going to let you down, especially what I'm asking for. So it was good, I have to say. Very happy to see the performance that was given. Let's see if they can replicate it though. That's the problem, and the consistency has been an issue. United can get up for a game like this, and this is the thing with especially the back four as well. Seeing Varane and Martinez and Malacia together is great, but if next week it's Sean Maguire again, it's going to destabilise and cause problems then again, because how are you supposed to build a solid unit then across the next couple of years if you're swapping them in and out for one fella that's out of contract next year and another fella that you badly need to get out the door, especially if Chelsea are looking for him. If Chelsea are looking for Harry Maguire, get him gone. Now, someone might say that's mad because they've let Eric Boye go and the Phil Jones are still hanging around. Yeah, but here's the thing. Scott McTominay plays the centre half he does for Scotland, and I wouldn't be opposed to seeing that either, especially given the fact that the lad is fit. I think you could train him and coach him into it. He's clearly coached for this game. He played very well, and to me, that's the way I'll go with it. Hopefully this is the start of something new, and it's the start of a new back four, and it's the start of the end of the career at Manchester United for Luke Shaw and Harry Maguire and a couple of others, because even this game I think highlighted that a number of times that the ball was kicked out. I know the idea was to kick it long, but the poor distribution, the kicking it out of play, the kicking it to Liverpool players put United under the cosh it did unreasonably and unnecessarily. And this is what I'm saying to you. David De Gea is the next one that needs to be phased out and moved out of the club. What I would go for, you're talking about Eintracht are looking for 25 million, I think it is, for Kevin Trapp. Why not talk to AC Milan and see how much they're willing to take from Mike Maignan? Like, that is the keeper I would go for. He's young, he's up and coming for France, and he's able to pass the ball out. He's good with penalties, he's good with saves, he can do it all. That'd be the guy I'd be looking at 100%. And if you don't believe me, have a look at some of the clips that are on him on this platform, and you'll start to understand why I've been saying that fella's a brilliant goalkeeper, and he's someone that I think would do a really good job at Manchester United. This fella's pulling in assists from the goal, like, it's outrageous stuff, and that's the type of keeper that's needed at Manchester United. So shore up the goalkeeping position. United very evidently from this game, I think, badly need a midfielder that's able to control the game. That's why they're after Frankie de Jong. I mean, this one really highlighted to me this game. that they need Frankie de Jong and they need someone like him, one or the other. They badly need someone on the left. There's an argument that can be made for someone on the right too, and certainly as well too, they need a striker badly, really badly, and especially a young one that's going to be able to learn. So this isn't going to be done in one window. I don't think. I think if Anthony comes in, I think he makes a big difference. I think you might see the end of either Rashford or Elanga on the left hand side. I'm probably going to say Elanga. I'd say that you might want to go with a centre forward of Rashford, which again is keeping Rashford happy, but I think he should have been binned during the summer and you should have been using that money to go somewhere else. That'd have been just me. But fantastic performance, as I said, for 30 minutes from Manchester United. Good to see them get the win on the board. Good to see them get the win over Liverpool. Hopefully it keeps going from here on out. What did you think of the game? Did you enjoy it? Who would be your man of the match? It's very difficult for me to pick a man of the match because, to me, between Varane and Martinez, both of them were outstanding. If you had to ask me at a push, Malacia comes in there too. Malacia comes in there for me too as a man of the match. He was absolutely wonderful. But if you had to push me all together, I would say Lisandro Martinez was the man of the match for me. He was absolutely outstanding, and the blocks that he put in was incredible. I think a number of times during the game, a lot of stuff that he did was underrated and understated. But what did you think of his performance? What did you think of Varane's performance? What did you think of the back four's performance? What did you think of David De Gea's distribution? And what did you think of the energy in the midfield? Did you think that that was adequate? Or did you think that they gave the 30 minutes and then they were just faded out and absolutely wrecked them after that? Do you think Liverpool came and they were playing on an off day? Or do you think this is a sign of things to come for Liverpool and that they've not started great this season and this could be a very downward trajectory for this team? Let's not forget, by the way, that Liverpool won the league before VAR was introduced and there was a lot of suspect decisions that went on during that year, to say the least. Let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell up above for future uploads. Check out the links posted in the description down below. Support the channel. Glazers out. I'll talk to you later. Good luck.